Hello friends of the world's clee huge. Hug to all the friends. We have all the friends from Mexico here, and we have a new opportunity to strengthen our connection with all the friends all over the world. Lately, we've been talking about Matanto, the giving of the Torah, love of others, the greatness of the Creator. There's none else besides Him, love of friends. These are very big issues where we need to strengthen ourselves and prepare with to the Congress with all those, so that we can make sure that love is revealed in such a way where we attain connection, unity. And indeed the month of May is rapidly approaching, and we will be there present alongside all of the friends from all over the world strengthening the connection between us in prayer and demand the Creator to strengthen the unity between us. And we here, the friends from Mexico, are united, calling to you to come and take part in this spiritual leap that will take place in the Congress, where we establish our love, strengthen it. It'll be a new day, and that's what the Creator wants, what we want. A huge hug to the France, and we'll continue advancing together with friends from Mexico and Chile. France, Article 14, the need for love of friends. There's a special power in the adhesion of friends, since the views and thoughts pass from one to the other. Through the adhesion between them, each is incorporated with the powers of the other, and by that each one has the power of the whole society. Therefore again there is a special power in the adhesion of friends, since the views and thoughts pass from one to the other. Through the adhesion between them, each is incorporated with the powers of the other, and by that each one has the power of the whole society. Words and hearts of the friends. We will ask the Creator to help us enter the lesson in adhesion with the friends and the Creator. Again, let's ask to enter the lesson in adhesion with the friends and the Creator. Silent workshop. They are our men. Our men. Leave it for leave. Shalom. Hello friends. In the first part of our lesson, we are continuing to study the article of Matan Torah. We are continuing today from item 12. You can find it in the writings of Islam in Kabbalah, media.info, in the study materials tab in the root system. We'll begin the study of Matan with a recorded lesson from December 9, 2003. Please. Item 12. These are the words of our sages when they asked, why should the Creator mind whether one slaughters at the throat or at the back of the neck? After all, the mitzvot were given only to cleanse people. That cleansing means the cleansing of the turbid body, which is the purpose that emerges from the observation of all the Torah and mitzvot. For wild ass will be turned into man, since one emerges out of the bosom of creation. One is in utter filth and loneliness, meaning a multitude of self-love that is imprinted in him, and his every movement revolves solely around himself, without a shred of bestow upon others. Thus, one is at the farthest distance from the root on the other end. One, since the root is all bestow without a hint of reception, whereas the newborn is in a state of complete self-reception without a hint of bestow. Therefore, his situation is regarded as being at the lowest point of loneliness and filth in our human world. The more he grows, the more he receives from his environment portions of bestow or on others, depending on the values and development in that environment, and then one is initiated into observing mitzvot for the purpose of self-love, for reward in this world and in the next world, called lishma, since one cannot be accustomed any other way. As one grows, he is told how to observe, which is with an aim solely to bring contentment to his Maker. As Maimonides said, women and children should not be told of observing Torah, since they will not be able to bear it. But when they grow and acquire knowledge and wisdom, they are taught to work lishmer. It is as our sages said, from lishmer one comes to lishma, defined by the aim to bring contentment to one's maker and not for any self-love under any circumstances through the natural remedy of engagement in Torah, which the giver of the Torah knows. As our sages said, the Creator says, I have created the evil inclination. I have created for it the Torah as a spice. Thus that creature develops and marches upward in degrees of the above said exaltedness until he loses all remnants of self-love, and all the mitzvot in his body rise, and he performs all his actions only to bestow. So even the necessity that he receives flows in the direction of bestow, meaning so he can bestow. This is why our sages said the mitzvot were given only to cleanse people. What does he want to explain to us in item 12? How it is that we reach equivalence of formed with the Creator, their intention to bestow the status in which he wants to see us. We reach that by our own work. Why? Because otherwise it's impossible to get there. Otherwise it cannot be said that we are his equals. There won't be an us. There has to be someone, some creature that stands on its own meaning outside of the Creator. That's why the Creator is the one who creates something, performs an action outside of him, creates someone opposite to him, and gives that creature opposite him every opportunity and the ability to reach his degree, his status. Therefore, every action taken by the created being with the intention to reach adhesion with the Creator, meaning the equivalent of form with the Creator, the intention to bestow like that of the Creator. All these actions are but means, and whoever uses them not as means, but just the actions themselves, without the purpose for which they were given, that person is performing actions without a purpose. There's no need for them. There's no purpose to them and no benefit from them. And therefore it's written, why should the Creator mind whether one slaughters at the throat or at the back of the neck? After all, the action itself doesn't matter. The nature of the act was set according to the purpose of it, the intention, what you want to attain from that act. And that's what we drew here in the painting, the perception theme, restriction, the structure of the vessel, which is opposite to the intention to bestow all these actions that are created. Being can take towards the Creator, called commandments. It has to be clear to the created being that all these things have to bring him to the ultimate goal, otherwise there is no use to them. And then when the person discovers that certainly he needs to reach equivalence of form with the Creator, then only if he has such a goal, then he begins to discover his nature as being opposite to that of the Creator. And through that revelation he finds an opportunity to invert himself, change himself to equivalence of form, and until he sees in every aspect of his nature, meaning in every aspect of the will to receive in him something that's opposite to the Creator, and feels that he has to bring each and every desire in him to equivalence of form with the external form, meaning the same form of expression as that of the Creator's, until he sees that certainly he cannot make any correction, and the correction is performed only by the reforming light, as it is written, I have created the evil inclination, meaning I created you with the will to receive, which actually isn't the goal. It's just a means by that you reach equivalence of form with me, and opposite that I created the tar a spice, powers which will come to you and correct you and give you the same intention that I have in order to bestow the intention of bestow. And since the person is in the will to receive, initially to the extent that he listens, and the extent that he listens and the how smart he is, that doesn't allow him to perform any action directly against the will to receive anyway, because that's his nature. That's what's inside of him. And so he must develop within his will to receive in a gradual, slow manner until he brings the will to receive to the recognition of evil and from the recognition of evil to the correction of the evil, and from the correction of evil to actual equivalence of form, and equivalence of form brings him to the state of adhesion, where the treasure rather the pleasure of adhesion is the purpose of creation, and on the path as a person corrects his will to receive, he must understand that the path goes from Lishma not for her sake to Lishma for her sake, meaning to understand that his will to receive comprises the degrees of the inanimate growing living, speaking, and to begin with he cannot understand anything except for pleasure, and the manner of these pleasures in order to receive, of course where he receives, they gradually elevate him towards the true work, the corrections of the will to receive. But for the time being the first stage is where a person sees in spirituality greater pleasures than in corporeality. The connection to spirituality to the Creator will bring him benefit, profit, livelihood, health, respect, knowledge, everything he could possibly imagine to himself as desirable pleasures, and then he should engage in it for that purpose, to engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah for that purpose, and then gradually as he engages in spirituality, so to speak, spirituality, and certainly engages in it to benefit himself with his natural intention in order to receive. Nonetheless, he invokes some light from above because he wants to be in higher degrees, so to speak, again because they are all in order to bestow, and he wants them in order to receive, to actually feed off the kipot, the shells. However, regardless, gradually the light from afar called surrounding, the surrounding light shines upon the person and corrects him. What does it mean that it corrects him? It doesn't correct him directly. It brings the person the understanding that you are opposite to me, and the person feels the coming of the light to him as the recognition of evil, as the feeling of suffering from disparity of form with spirituality, and the person is then given to the surrounding light, and that light brings the person that feeling according to the person's ability to tolerate it and persevere on the path, and then within the person some parts of begins to form inside of the Lishma. He's willing in order to come to know the Creator, in order to be connected to spirituality. He's willing to suffer in the will to receive, meaning that he begins to see the connection with the Creator and spirituality as something higher than receiving pleasures in the will to receive itself, meaning he begins to receive the grace of sanctity, the grace of holiness, meaning there is some affiliation with something that's above, beyond his body, and that is the skewer, the special power of the Torah and mitzvot, commandments, and so he continues and summons upon himself the surrounding light, the upper abundance, which gradually corrects him, and he performs all the actions which can bring him towards the correction of the will to receive. And all these actions are called mitzvot, commandments, and of course the actions he performs during the estanim, the concealment of the face, the double concealment, and the regular concealment, or actions he performs during the Jilapanim, the revelation of the face in reward and punishment or eternal love. These are all different actions, but each and every action on each and every degree that he performs in order to reach the ultimate outcome which existed in the initial thoughts, namely adhesion with the Creator. Each such action is called observing a commandment. Through that action, he wants to reach his goal, which is the intention, the purpose of the commandment. And that's why it's written that the commandments were given only in order to refine the created beings, meaning to refine his will to receive through their intention to be in equivalence of form with the Creator's intention, which is in order to bestow. Yes, it's we said that the light works as good that does good and brings from, but in another case it can be the potion of death, the light that shines, the light of the Torah, which comes from the Creator from a very high place. It can be that it brings a person correction and a sense coming closer to spirituality. Or it could be that it lowers the person to the abyss to hell, to complete disconnection from spirituality to the kipot the shells, as it is written that the holy holy, meaning that it comes from the highest degree from the Creator, that lights can be either a potion of life or a potion of death. It is because the person can perform only one action by which he determines, like a drinker, he determines which direction he'll go, and that is his intention, the intention in the act that he performs. If his intention is to reach adhesion with the Creator, and that goal is what compels him to observe the Torah and commandments, as it is written, I've created the evil inclination. I've created the Torah as spice, meaning he discovers that he's opposite to the Creator and he wants to be like the Creator. Then he uses the means called Torah, and then certainly he reaches that purpose, that goal, meaning he has an intention behind it. And if these actions he performs are without any intention to reach adhesion with the Creator, meaning he doesn't go through the recognition of evil, and he doesn't use his actions, doesn't perform actions because of the need to come closer to the Creator, rather instead he builds himself up all sorts of builds himself actions called mitzvah, which have no connection to the Torah and mitzvah, because as it is written that the Creator doesn't mind how you slaughter the beast, but rather these actions were given only to refine the created beings, meaning that if a person intends to refine himself, to purify himself, to make himself like the Creator, then certainly this action is of benefit and it purifies him. However, if he doesn't intend to reach that purification equivalence of form, then it's the opposite. That action lowers him, becoming and becomes a potion of death. And that's the difference between those who study the wisdom of Kabbalah, where the light brings the person, it becomes the reforming light. It gives the person the recognition that he's descending, that he cannot be a person like just a regular person like he was before. He always feels that he's in disparity of form, and then certainly he needs the reforming light, and then all his actions can be called Torah and commandments. But if he doesn't study the wisdom of Kabbalah, which is what brings one the recognition of evil, then all his actions don't come from the recognition of evil, from the feeling of his coarseness that he needs to correct himself. He feels himself to be just already, so he has no intention to reach equivalence or form. He feels that he's already in equivalence. That means that he lowers himself to the clip, the shells, and that Torah, the same Torah that he doesn't relate to as a means that comes to him through the recognition of evil. That Torah becomes to him the potion of death, meaning the person determines according to his goal if he's engaging in the Torah of life or the Torah of death. Yes, if two people come and start studying Kabbalah with uncorrected intentions, and people who come to study Kabbalah I don't know what Kabbalah is, the book where the title is Test the Study of the Tate, is that Kabbalah. There are many people who go to study Kabbalah 10, quote, so the Holy Zohar, you can see it everywhere, the book of so. The question is the person studying those books in order to reach equivalence of form with the Creator? Then you can say he's studying Kabbalah, he wants to receive divinity. Kabbalah is the roots of the revelation of God to the created being in this world. The method by which to reveal God to the created being to the person. That is called, and if he studies the same exact books, but he doesn't have that intention, the revelation of God and the revelation of the Creator can certainly be to begin with in order to receive. Then the person is not studying the Torah at all, or the Torah of life, you could say, and it doesn't matter which books he studies. That's what he writes in the introduction to the tense. Two people can read the same book, and one will be studying the Torah of life and the other the Torah of death. and it is impossible to distinguish externally. It's only according to the person's inner attitude in relation to that. And here we have a problem, as certainly not each and everyone is ready to relate to the Torah in that way. And so Balasam tells us in item 2 in the beginning of the introduction to the study of the Tans that if a person comes to study with the question, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I suffering in my life? Why are they so difficult? That is the beginning of the path. He has a need to know the Creator as the source of all the bad in him, not in him, but the bad that he received that he feels. He needs to come to know the root because of the need he feels in his vessels, or he feels bad in his vessels, empty, lacking. But if a person doesn't feel those lacks, but just opens the book because that's how he was educated as a child, for example, that you must study the Torah. The study of the Torah comes against everything bad. And what kind of person doesn't study in a you? No, very simply is obligated to study for various reasons, but not the revelation of a lack. Then certainly that kind of person is studying the Torah of, yes, because the Torah was given to begin with under the condition of I've created the evil inclination. I created the Torah as spice. A person needs to feel bad. Maybe he doesn't know about the evil inclination and all that still, but he feels bad simply, and he begins to attribute that to the Creator. And that comes from the Rashomot, the records, the beastly records. Beastly, meaning with no connection to the Creator. The inanimates growing and living in him awakens the Rashomot, the records of the speaking, and he begins to understand that his evil, the evil within him, and the evil that comes to him is coming from some source, supposedly that there is some reason to this, and he must discover the reason for his suffering. And that's why there are few who truly come to the study, and it's really quite rare for a person to remain, to stick around. However, the whole of creation is but the development of the will to receive, and the will to receive is not built to fulfill itself truly. And if it does feel fulfilled for a moment, that's only in order to discover the emptiness that comes after the very temporary, very ephemeral fulfillment. And humanity is discovering, each one is discovering that, well, what is the point of my life? What is the purpose of life? In various different ways, either through introspection or something bad comes to him, is brought to him externally on various levels in various ways. And so in our days this evil is growing, especially with respect to Israel, and that is what will ultimately obligate us, compel us to come to the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah, as it is the only means through which we can come to peace and wholeness. That's it. If in a group that advances, doesn't the power of the group allow people to not be in the potion of death? A group that is advancing, or even just existing, it can be a group that studies the books of Kabbalah, seemingly, but everything depends on the intention of that group, and the group in that case is the same as a single individual. The same rule applies, whether if for the individual or the collective. And so you can look at the whole group as an individual, and you will not be mistaken. Yes, do the again. Sorry. In when you have grace of holiness. When you have grace of holiness, do. You want to bestow, or you want to receive pleasure from bestowing the grace of holiness. It means that a person begins to respect, to value, bestow, the concept of bestow, even though he's still in the will to receive, because inside him there is the shattered vessel of Beiner, and opposite that vessel stands the surrounding light, the upper light, with the intention in order to bestow, and then he feels in that status, in the point in their heart, the broken screen, the vessel of Beiner between that and the surrounding light, he feels some kind of connection, which that is with respect to his will to receive, to his will to receive. It brings a feeling of a regard for spirituality, regard for divinity, something higher. but even within the world, receives some kind of little illumination, enters, and he can say that there's truly something above something. Superior may be in the form of pleasure, but he can say that something is superior about spirituality. So first he appreciates the pleasure of it, and later it manifests as appreciation for the act of bestow in itself, as supposedly there's something to it which it's just a higher value. That's how it comes to the person, because the person includes both Bina and Malat. If the person didn't include within him both the broken, the shattered Bina, and if not for the shattered Bina, he would never have been able to appreciate, to feel, to relate to such an action in any way. It's the same as the inanimate growing and living. Okay, yes, if we have to turn to people who want to have a good living war and things like that, what would we explain to them? When we turn to people explaining things to them, we need to bring them just one answer. You want to feel good. I don't care how you interpret that good. I brought you something good. We've brought peace unto you. What do you intend by that? Doesn't matter. You'll feel good. That's what we call teaching. As the Ram says here, and he says that you need to teach the women, the servants, the little ones, those who are who does, who don't understand at all that there can be such a thing as bestow them. Certainly you bring their method in a way they can understand. This will make things good for you better. Of course, this doesn't relate to actual children or slaves or women. This relates to a man who must perform the commandments in this world to correct himself, who is on the decree of a child, a little child small, meaning, or a slave, a servant, or a woman. So question, so what is the difference between us? There are many who say read a chapter of the Zedyel, be given some good job, or read this protects you against rockets. If a person already yearns for good, you can already begin to explain to him how to attain the good by the study, and then you let him start studying, and bit by bit as you teach him, you begin to reveal to him that the study has a goal. True that you say that Psalms against rockets, you can call that Torah as well, but it's not the Torah of I created the evil inclination, I created the spice of Torah, but rather it's when you tell a person to begin with, you want things to be good, go read Psalms, and that's it. What's the difference? The difference is that in our approach the goal has to be at the beginning and at the end. At the beginning as the aim, the goal, and at the end that it's attained in and by way of attainment. And if you learn, you study, and you don't tie together the man's development with the study, rather that the study as if has to force the creator to do good to us, like I'm studying, you want me to study, so bring me something good instead of suffering. So of course that kind of study is not even considered lishma, because lishma is when I already understand that I'm in a process of a developing will to receive, but I understand that I wish to reach equivalence of form with a desire to bestow. This is called lishma. I determine that it's lishma, and those people who just study without any aim of reaching bestow to them. The present state also can't be said to be lishma. It's just a beastly state that is not developing towards the goal. So the difference is that we need to say you want employment, good, come study, you'll reach spirituality, you'll reach the upper force, and then you'll receive the job that you wanted to get. We put this inside of that. Come to that point, and from that point you'll reach whatever it is that you want. Currently, we begin to teach the person with a promise that he'll receive everything through the study. The study brings abundance from above. That abundance builds in him a vessel and fills that vessel. And by that we're not lying to a person. We're not, because he, the poor person, doesn't understand that the way he perceives now he cannot acquire peace and wholeness and tranquility. He can't. So therefore we don't exactly explain to him what is the vessel in which you acquire wholeness. You don't explain That, but you are indeed selling him wholeness. Whereas in any other method, even though it doesn't explain anything or leads to anything, it seemingly sells wholeness, but a person is not even moving towards it. I come to a simple person, and I tell him, study, a vessel will be built in you. What does it mean? No, I'm not explaining that to him that a vessel needs to be built. I'm telling you how we need to relate to him. That to us it's clear that he has to go through a process of correction of the vessels, installment of the vessels. How do I turn to him? You turn to him only with the goal that you want, and he wants that things will be good. It's just that the interpretation of good is different. I told you once, like that advertisement for him it's the Milky, the Dairy Delight, and for you it's milk. That's what we need to do. But how do I make him feel that here is your milk? It's a type of candy. I don't reveal to him the whole truth. I don't understand what you're worried about, that you're not revealing the truth. He's not ready to bear the truth to hear it. But everyone tells him, here you have milk. So they wait, you're asking something else. You're asking, how will I be more credible in his eyes, more worthwhile, as opposed to all kinds of other salespeople, that he'll get my product on top of their others' advertisements. I think that if you are selling this truthfully without any precondition from him, you have to show in any address to him something from the upper one, because he doesn't understand that, but he's searching for the creator, because the creator is the cause for the bad, and the person looks for him when he says, I feel bad. So you need to come to a person as if dressed like the creator, meaning you're not demanding money from him. You're not forcing him, obligating him by anything. You just explain to him, objectively, independently of anything of this world, what you are arriving at, and with what are you coming to him, and then in your approach the upper force will reside, and he'll feel it from within. Ultimately, what we're selling is a kind of a higher message that passes from us to other people, and we're just building the connection so that the upper force goes through us towards that and begins to work in the person. So I tell him, come with me to the supermarket, to the creator, and there you'll receive your milk key. I don't want to explain it that way. I said, everything here we're talking about people who are willing to come and study. Now what about the rest of the world? How should we relate to them, to the world? We have to try to reach them in various ways to explain that if whoever feels suffering, there's a reason for that suffering, and we can reveal that reason, or even without revealing the reason, bring fulfillment instead of the suffering. And again I say, fulfillment is attained by summoning a force from above, of a higher force. That's it. You want to feel good, study with the intention that from above the force will come and bring you good. That's it. That's sufficient. Because he has a lack. This is what's called a created the evil inclination. But he doesn't feel it as an evil inclination yet. But he learns from his deficiency, and not like in all kinds of circles where they study without any kind of deficiency. They just received some education that way. Meaning if a person is in a bad feeling, like determines that he seemingly suffers, and asks what is the point in life, and that bad feeling, it could even be curiosity. Why are things like that? It's also considered something bad, because he has a question, not just sitting out of habit. That way, and that everything just does out of habit, but there's a deficiency, doesn't matter what form of deficiency, for now he feels it at first. Very beastly. I came from a deficiency of knowledge, of understanding why does the world work that way. I couldn't point to something really bad. I had everything I needed in corporality, materially, and I think that's pretty much how everyone comes. You can't really say that they're in such bad shape, but they feel an urge, a deficiency, and then you can say, we are allowed to say that you're going to fulfill this deficiency. And it's truly so. If he has the smallest deficiency, then it can already be clothed with what we call the light that reforms because it comes from deficiency. And those who have completely no deficiency and they just know that I am supposed to now come to this room, then I study here, then I study in a then I do this, then I do that. Or we call that what do you do with kids who grew old? There's nothing to do but deficiency, any kind of deficiency, then it's not by chance that humanity goes deeper and deeper into such deficiencies, greater and greater, that just can't be that they can't bear. And that gives us an opportunity to turn to all of humanity. The suffering cleanses the body, meaning the person begins to understand that he has to find the reason for the suffering, not just to delete that. The suffering becomes such that can't be deleted, can't be ignored, can't be just, refrained from. It's impossible. One has to find what is the true reason for the suffering, not to neutralize it. He already is despaired from trying to neutralize from trying to cover it up. He has to find a reason, and then in knowing the reason, it gives them hope for salvation. And this is what the development of the will to receive brings all of humanity to. Certainly, we're facing a very difficult period, and it's possible that the disparity of form with the land of Israel will throw us out of the state of Israel, like Barasim writes, and like the Psalms, the prophets say, that it is a land that ejects, throws up those who are not suitable for it, and the people of Israel can only match the land of Israel. And if it's not the people of Israel, then it's a land of the 7 nations, as it's called. It's not the land of Israel, then it's Palestine. Then give it to the Palestinians. Very simple. With this approach of come study, it'll be good for you. You'll receive an abundance from above that'll improve you. Not necessarily just in spirituality, there anything a person wants in that there's a problem. We run into a lot of person who comes with the desire to satisfy his need for respect, money or control. Through the study at a certain point he checks his vessels and he sees I studied for a month or 2, a year or 2, and in actual fact these vessels are empty. I didn't advance in terms of how much money I make in my personal relationships, how much I know, and there we lose many people. So the question is how to arrange the study in such a way where meaning we truly tell the person that whatever you want in life you'll get it. A person studies a year or 2 and he wanted all kinds of pleasures in life and he didn't get it. What did he want? Money, honor, knowledge, and he didn't get it. So he leaves. If a person in 2 years hasn't changed his deficiencies from money and honor and knowledge to spirituality, then of course he doesn't deserve to stay. It could be from a reason that he necessarily is in a very great corporeal desire, and it's hard for me to believe that he's in for a year or 2 and he's still in that corporeal desire. He'll leave much earlier. You understand, after a month, he'll already see that it's totally not in the direction he's aiming for, or that we also aren't given the right treatment, the right teaching, so that the study, so that the light that goes down to the person, the surrounding light, doesn't change the character of the desire in the person, the shape of the desire that he has to gradually begin changing, or perhaps not changing. I would say this: let him stay with corporeal pleasures, with respect to food and sex. I'm not saying anything that's beastly that can remain and stay for many more years, and it doesn't relate to spirituality. It's the body. But money, honor, knowledge from the study you have to nevertheless begin change the attitude towards that in different variations, up and down, or something. But it has to start changing in accordance with acquiring the desire for godliness. And if within a year or two he didn't even understand that there is something lofty here, then the fact he stayed for a year or two here is a heroic act on his part. And the fact that he didn't get there is our act of failure on our side. On our end, meaning that I need to draw a person to the study with curiosity or with a promise with you, well, supposing that time drawing just waiting until the holy system works on him. Is that the purpose? So now using curiosity or promising him an abundance, should I draw him in that way? We have to build this our study system, our teaching system, in a way that gradually it opens up a person's desire in a, how to put it in an essential way, not in a quantitative way, meaning that man's desire changes in its essence. What does it mean in its essence? That it truly becomes more qualitative, higher each time to build a damn human out of him, meaning to the extent that his desires are higher, so he becomes more of a human, and he won't just stay with money or honor, so may it be for knowledge, so that ultimately he will long for knowing the Lord your God and worshipping him, meaning even externally what we call knowing God, meaning that in terms of knowledge he'll want the knowledge of the upper world, and towards that we need to gradually prepare the person in our groups. The group, like him says, brings the person an appreciation of what's more important over but and the group needs to give the person this upper value, this uppermost value of attaining godliness, knowing godliness, receiving the upper light, being in the upper world as opposed to everything that exists on in the lower world. This is something the group has to radiate to the person, and by that it changes his priorities in throughout across his desires within him. So even though he longs for money and honor, that begins to be a recognition of evil for him, meaning that it's a lot less respected in the eyes of our environment than if I long for spirituality, and then through social pressure he will start longing for spirituality. But let's say I don't want a society, I want to come and get 4 lessons on the wisdom of Kabbalah. A person who doesn't want the society is a common person. No doubt he doesn't come to be integrated with someone else, that someone will brainwash him. Of course not. He comes to fulfill his desires alone, and he doesn't want to be incorporated with anyone. He comes to you only for one thing. You have something I want. If me, no, goodbye. But in the meantime, when you tell him, I got something for you, he enters the group and he begins to be subdued. Yeah, under the influence of the group, and there's nothing you can do. It works on him. If the group is properly arranged around him, then it works on him. Undoubtedly, unilaterally, the group through brings him the hierarchy, the order of importance of desires, that a beastly desire is a beastly desire. Money is money, honor, power, knowledge, and then above knowledge there is something called godliness, attaining that's above all. Then you're not a beast, and not even just a human in this world. Then you belong. You're something that belongs to spirit, to eternity. If the society gives the person this kind of ladder of priorities, values, then there is certainly a chance that he will receive it, because he's under the influence of society. It's built that way by nature. That one absorbs the influence of society, like it or not, he absorbs it. And then his desire to receive, his desire to enjoy, begins to want to enjoy, not from money, not from honor or power or knowledge, but godliness. Because there are these values, right? For food, sex, family, that's beastly. Pleasures, then money, honor, knowledge. Human pleasures, and godliness. Spiritual pleasures. Yeah. So based on this scale, he begins to orient his interest from lower pleasures to enjoy from to higher pleasures. That's it. He wants to enjoy. Ultimately, right. He has only a desire To enjoy. He has a vessel here that wants to enjoy. How to spell it? Yeah. He wants to enjoy. But here he has food, sex, let's say. Now. Money, honor, I would even put it like this, knowledge, and let's say spirituality. I still don't call it the upper world or something like that. So for the will to receive, the will to receive feels pleasure. So it's like a dial. It goes from here to here by the society. By that you move their dial. That's all. And that's how we have to build our society. That's how it is for us. So I'm not lying to him that I'm bringing him pleasure. But on the way, there I also change his values. He comes to me and he thinks like you. Say that I'll give him food and sex and money or honor. But I tell him you'll get fulfillment. Don't worry, you'll study. You'll see that it brings you fulfillment. But however, we must not say, well, we can't say that the fulfillment, the true fulfillment, when will it come? When you relate to the source and in the right way. That I can't say. But what can I do? I treat him like a baby and bit by bit I lead him toward to that state. There's no falsehood here. It's just lack of development. You can, if you tell him to begin with where you're leading him to. He can't understand that. What do you want from me? I just give me a little bit of pleasure with what's some toy that I want right now. What can you tell him? Nobody. The purpose of creation is that you'll grow up and become like the Creator and in full stature in equivalence of form and then with that equivalence of form, you'll enjoy. Who's grasping this idea here? So it follows that there's a pyramid structure in humanity too, distributed according to the scale of the inner development with respect to the question of the purpose of life. Right now humanity is gradually entering a plight because it's beginning to see that not money or honor or knowledge brings happiness, and so it's baffled. And here we have to try to reveal that their fulfillment can be through the revelation of spiritual sources, not in order to bestow, but just like you relate to a person, one person, and you say I got something you want. Similarly, you have to come to all of humanity and say I got something you want. Just let's sit down, study a little bit with an aim to reach the goal. What's the goal? Fulfillment. And over a while, over some time in some time, we will feel that we're truly headed towards fulfillment. Otherwise, we'll keep suffering. Is there a choice? No. So, listen, that's it. Just like you turn to an individual, same approach, no difference. The particular and the collective are equal. And then if you ask me what could be, that they'll open all TV channels and we'll give them a lesson, will also be wiser, and from above will receive support and help with expressing and explaining, and in what way and in what program to make it happen, that we can certainly put masses, literally masses, is, and they'll want this way through all kinds of media means of distribution that have only developed for that, and will only develop for that. Then receive the method called the wisdom of Kabbalah. What's the wisdom of Kabbalah? The revelation of godliness to man, which is the only thing that fulfills you. That's it. Know the upper force. Know what it wants from you. Know how to take advantage of it, to use it for your benefit. Please go ahead. That's the method, and we're willing to teach it. I want to understand. We talked about how a person just needs to change his attitude towards life. How can we, in a simple way, convey to him that attitude where he doesn't need to change anything? Beastliness, corporality, everything remains just a new attitude. A person doesn't need to change anything. It's just changing the attitude to life is something that changes in him, changes within him as a result of the method. I basically only put him next to me to listen. He's incapable of doing more. And then to the extent that he can hear, that he is willing to hear, I begin to explain. And this explanation is also its just words. You could also do all kinds of things for him that don't belong to the study at all. You can start showing him movies about nature, how the will to receive works through nature. You can explain, you can use 1,000 different ways just to explain that there is a general force, a general law of all of reality, and to the extent that we know it, we can enjoy it. That's it. If a person comes to lessons, let's say 10 lessons the course, and there's no group. A group doesn't form because everyone came to study, not to make a group. Will some change occur in him also from the study itself without a group? What do you mean without a group? If he's sitting with everyone, and they bit by bit they gradually agree with the teacher, the instructor, with what he's talking about, then it's already a collective force, a general force working on each and everyone to the extent he's interested or disinterested, what he wants or not. Doesn't want, he becomes part of it, like the example of Weight Watchers. People come, they would like to get thinner by eating more, right? Ultimately, they realize that gorging is not good, so they work against the desire. I see that there's an example everyone knows to move a person's inner dial, to bring him from a state where he wants to find a date to a state where he wants spirituality. What do I do? We don't relate to this whole, to this entire scale, from food to sex to money and honor and knowledge and spirituality. We don't relate to that scale in the sense of where is each and everyone, because everyone has all these things at once, and a person is thrown from one to the other thing without any ability to control or reveal his state for us, and it's not up to us to relate to it at all. It has to do with records in different states, 1,000 different details that we can't take into account. That's not our business at all. We need to provide him with a general force that raises his appreciation of pleasure. Ultimately, he receives pleasure. You see, pleasure is felt. But felt from what? From what? That's what we need to elevate, so that he feels that enjoying the Creator, there's nothing better. And it's not money, it's not honor, it's not anything. And humanity also begins to reveal the nothingness in that it doesn't fulfill anyone. Everyone still wants it, of course, but on the other hand, they begin to feel disappointment. So the work through these blows becomes easier for us. How do I make him want it? Do I want to have him get to a new stage on the path? So I tell him, whatever you want of these things, if you attain the upper force, then you'll know how to use the upper force, and then you'll receive that thing you want. Do I introduce the upper force here? I sell him the Creator. Very simple. What am I telling? I'm saying the wisdom of Kabbalah is the revelation of the Creator to you. Reveal him. Know how to use him. These are rude words, right? You shouldn't speak that way. But basically that's what I aim for, and that's what he wants to hear. Who wanted to ask? I'm asking society. I wanted to break down what we call society. Society is not necessarily it's a society that goes like a squad with a clear goal and solidify towards that. No, we exist in all kinds of societies. And just like we take a person who is either a child or a slave or a woman, or then society is similarly in these degrees of a child or a slave or a woman. Or bit by bit it becomes a society that is truly like one fist, but not the group of beginner students who have no connection between them. You begin to bring them together psychologically, right? You let's know each other, let's have a meal together, a picnic, all kinds of things that way. In the evening after a lesson, and then bit by bit, even though they still don't know it as a society, and certainly not as a group, but their thoughts and desires begin to bond without their awareness and aim. The question is if we do it assertively. So can't I can't talk to the person about something he didn't see in his regular environment. I can't now take concepts from Rash Rabash's terminology and apply it to his life. It seems like brainwashing. We're speaking unintelligently. What are you saying? That we don't have a clear method, a ready method for any kind of person in the world to come to him and put it in his face and he'll take it and be happy. There's no such thing yet, right? We need to work on that. I agree. My lesson agree. Yeah, but we're on the way and there's no one else to do it. There's no you can. Please let him do it. If one shouldn't say someone should do it if he just has to feel responsible. I happened upon many different methods. Meditation, observing nature. Like you said before, you sit a person down, you tell him to observe nature around him, and he can learn from that. So where are these methods with kosher? Where can they apply? You see that you went through different methods of meditation and contemplating nature, and you see that at some point these methods stop, they freeze, and a person stops developing. But rather, just like he is immersed in nature, he also gets closer to equivalence to form with that nature, with that degree of nature that he studies from, that he wants to belong to. That follows the law of equivalence with form. So the method of Kabbalah that we receive from people who are in the spiritual nature, the upper nature, that method too leads us to equivalence of form with their nature. The upper nature depends what do you study. What can you learn from nature? That you find in your five senses. Even in extrasensory perceptions, they have that. They have that for no doubt. They feel some of the future, some of the past, some things that happen in distances. Like the Bedouin, like some Bedouin people, they feel many things, but it's ultimately just nature. It's not godliness. It's nature. They feel forces and voices that are obscure to us. We don't perceive them. They exist. We don't perceive them, but it's still just nature. So what is it? So they can read not through the eyes, but through the skin. There are people like that. Yes, some people can use their thought to break things or many other things, but it sits within our nature. So what's the value of it? Doesn't give you anything. I'm telling you, I had a few cases where a person said, I can break your cup. No. Forget, I don't want to clean after you. When I work, I have a cup of tea. Sometimes I would drink Coke if before I had diabetes, but so I don't want that. But I'll show you that my spiritual forces, what spiritual you understand it, and even if you can do it. So what you don't want to see, it's not interesting to me. It's not spiritual, especially if it is to break something. So therefore all these methods, what they give a person is relief, is they put him into being good, because the nature of the still, vegetative and animate is not evil. That works through instincts. It's not harmful to anything. When some animal hunts another, it's not harmful. It's just a form of existence. There's no intention to harm. You understand? So when you begin to be similar to that level of nature, you also less harmful, but you're lowering yourself from the degree of a human to a degree of an animal or a vegetative or a still. Of course, you suffer less with that. But it's not the purpose. The process of development will not allow you to remain in that. Look at what's happening with China. 1.5 billion people now are starting to wake up. You know what's going to happen through the 21st century with China, and the whole world accordingly will change. That will become the center of the world. That will become the center of the world. Where is America, Russia? Nothing. No, it's we too. It's nothing. We will be like the fringe of the world. That will become the center. Look at the awakening of the world. receive and what implications that will bring. Nature won't help. Not Confucius or Buddha, or they were very great people, and they truly gave a good method for the character of their nations to be able to remain in some balance and tranquility. I'm saying, seriously, it's not by chance. These are godly forces ultimately that appeared through these human beings to give them such influence and to give them such a method. But it isn't the purpose. It's to become frozen for a certain period of time, and now there's an awakening. So there's a method that aims you upward. The method that aims upwards is, there was no, when you say so I'll join, and confess Rabbi Shimon and everything will work out, that they're in contradiction with one another. He says remain a vegetable. Sit like this and don't move. Think without moving, and Rab Shimon says otherwise. So they're contradicted. Why is it contradicted? It's actually not contradicted. It's just it speaks of the relation towards for the phase 4 of the will to receive. The method of Kabbalah is for the 4th, the phase 4 of the will to receive, and the method of all these philosophers is for lesser degrees than phase 4 than degree 4, and that's where they are in and potential in practice. And then you see that all of humanity is leaving religion and all these methods, that it's not already, it's no longer capable of being in it. It's the will to receive is growing. It's bursting upwards, growing above all that Buddha and Confucius talk about. When were they in? The 4th or 5th century? No, I'm not sure if it was exactly the 4th and 5th century. Yes. What? Okay. Guess. Plus, minus 500 years. Who's counting? So, do you understand? So, this isn't working already. That's what I'm trying to say. What about a method? Something new that doesn't aim you towards there, or is this the only path? Maybe what Shivitz was trying to find is something like that. The wisdom of Kabbalah, meaning the revelation of godliness to a person as the source, or filling it for his will to receive, is the only method, since it was received from that source from above and not from a person's investigation of nature below. You could say yes, it's written about Abraham who he studied nature, but what did he study for? Did he find something in nature? The upper force was revealed to him. Anyway, a person from his research of his 5 senses cannot do anything, because he can only reveal in this. He can, there's a nature that is eternal around us, but he will only perceive what you can perceive with your 5 senses. But there was a person that, from his records, it was revealed through this the point of Biner, and then in the point of Biner the connection with the upper reality was revealed to him, which belongs to the quality of Biner, and then he developed a method. And what is this method? It's a method that's meant for everyone who have, and we all have, this preparation, this and Biner, and how to develop the Biner that's in Mal. That's the whole method of Kabbalah. That's it. We are Mal in us. Biner has fallen in us as a spark. Develop it so it will be the one that reigns over Malat, and that's the spiritual Kli. If you don't develop it, then Malat will control, and that will be your beastly animalistic. And that's what the wisdom of Kabad does. And what is the upper light? It takes it from the point in the heart and makes a Kli. Thanks to the revelations of the cobras, we got the result. So since they have founded this method for us, upon this, thanks to this, we can develop, but without this method which brings us from above lights, because this method talks of godliness. It brings us, it tells us about the actions that are beyond the 6th sense, beyond the 5 senses, against the 6th sense, the point in the heart. So it develops, it's developed to us by the surrounding light that we're calling, by projecting it and developing our 6th sense, and develops this spiritual vessel in us. If not this relationship between the spiritual world and the creator and the source of the light and our spark, there would be no possibility to develop. Development is considered the development of the point in the heart. I heard you say many times that if you put the right intention, we have to develop a method that makes you develop the right intention. Wait. We don't need to develop a method that corrects intentions. Hastings, this whole method is called the wisdom of Kabbalah already exists. From the times of Abraham, it exists only in each and every stage. It is refined, developed in accordance with the coarseness that's revealed in each generation. It's added like he writes, the wise, the sages of the Talmud made the method of correction easier than the sages of the Misnar. As the sages of the Misnar said, you have to do mortifications. You should eat bread with salt and water and sleep on the ground and work in Torah and you'll be blessed. And the sages of the Talmud said, you don't need all these mortifications. Just engage in the Torah. Leave your body. Leave those things. Remain like you are. Just study with the right intention. Why? Because they performed the corrections and cells upon the will to receive that grew. And then you use through this lens, this magnifying glass, this system that they built between you and the source of the light which brings you a more powerful light, maybe an amplifier. I would say that it's like a focusing glass that concentrates the light more. That's how I would describe this their correction. What I'm trying to say is to use what like you started recording your teacher. We have to develop more. You can attract to the study of Kabbalah all kinds of means that you want. With no limitations, because everything can belong to this method since it's a natural method. So everything that's in man and everything that's in nature can connect to this. That's it. But nevertheless, the method remains the same method. It's drawing the reforming light. That's it. Means there are 1,001 means. Do concerts. Do I don't know what the music study itself. Talking all the influences that there are upon a person, not so many in the end of the matter. This should bring the influence of the society upon a person. In what way it's not important, because bestow is a matter of thought where people around him with their thought control him and penetrate into him, his thought, their thoughts, and he absorbs it and wants it or doesn't want it inevitably and accordingly is excited by and operated upon. Let's hope that we will reach something more clear. You see, from above we're not even being given the possibility to express this easily. We're studying the Torah that was given in Mount C, and we're studying it. We enjoy it, and we say it's a science. The problem is, how do you pass this onward? The connection between science and Kabbalah is already revealed in a clear manner. It stands out even in the eyes of a person that just knows a little of the science and Kabbalah. We need to emphasize this connection. That's the actual near goal that I want to perform. Okay friends, so now we're going to go to the lesson summary of what we heard. 8 minutes lesson summary. To refine the direction of what spirituality is, what is to bestow in order to bestow, and not without seeing anything else. That's very precise and aimed towards love of the Creator through the love of others. Also, this the purpose of the group in the life of every person in a spiritual development. That special example of person sitting in the group and was there for 2 years and still would awaken to something else. So in those 2 years he did something good and the society missed out on it. So we have an important duty here as a 10 and society towards every detail in society, and we need to take that responsibility and implement it towards one another in the between us. Person just needs to put himself in the environment, and that environment gradually through the upper lights raises the importance in a person of attention upon the will to receive and correct him, don't know what to add. I simply just want to say how inspired I got by. It was so long ago, but he still speaks higher than what I can understand. We were really rewarded to study from our love. I heard a lot about the development of the desire through the society, that only through the society we can develop our desires on every layer, on every level, from moving food, sex, money, honor, knowledge to spirits, development of spirituality and the wisdom of Kabbalah. It all depends on the environment, and also the definition of the environment was really sharp here, and it's not only the group in the 10, but the environment is every situation in which a person is in, that's his environment in life, and even to come to a course and to be in the academy is already the environment that causes a to develop and receive a response from spirituality. Yeah, there are two special forces in us, the forces of nature, and through those forces, the Creator, the upper light, can develop us through those forces that He gave us and brought us to the society that will help us develop the points in the heart through the surrounding light. And our choice is to choose the right good environment that we can put ourselves into this force of development. A very, very important and very special lesson, because this is one of the great and special things there is, that there are in the attainment of a Kabbalist, that he knows how to pass along the method and the connection to godliness, to the lowly, to the low ones, according to the degree of their desire. This is a craft that moves from one Kabbalist to the next, and we also have to come to the state which each person, no matter who we meet in this world, according to the degree and measure that he can receive, transfer to him in some way, in some manner, the wrapping of the method of the light with the connection with the purpose of creation. These lessons are very important. That's it. May we succeed like everyone. Very special lesson, like all the lessons, the recorded ones that were watching. They're very nice. A big part discusses dissemination, and a big part discusses the light that reforms, how it works on a person, how you need to draw it during your studies, and actually develop, like I've said, develop the quality of bestow, and that in all kinds of ways it will affect us, especially on behalf of society, as much as possible, and to just make the efforts. Yes, it's special to look at the individuals that spoke back then, and in a certain measure we kind of know everything, and how it renews, and there's still plenty to learn. Emmanuel touched the foundation, what defined as the basis of the wisdom of Kabbalah. Those two special qualities, that one comes from above and the other one's it's in control. So we need to develop that special point that takes us upward, and to let it expand and take over and mix these two things together. And that's it. I hope, I pray that we'll succeed in doing it towards one another, and we'll be a good environment to develop the godly part in us, each one in the 10. We are studying from the study of the tense. We are in volume 1 part 2. In your observation, we are in item 99. And before we start with item 99, we will watch clip number 11. Intention. Before the lesson, we cannot do anything except for really wanting to feel these things, to understand what is he writing, what do we have to depict to ourselves, what's happening with our desires, not with our mind, with our desires, what should happen in us in order for us to feel that what's written in test is working in us, is taking place in us. That's our work. And as much as we will want more and more that it will take place, that it will happen, so for this we'll want to be connected between us and in adhesion to the Creator that illuminates on us more. Then it'll happen. By this will help the lights advance, like he writes in the item 155 in the introduction to test. So, whoever doesn't understand, that's all Right ever thinks he understands. I promise him that he doesn't understand, because here we're discussing we want these things to take place in us and we will feel, and from the feeling we'll understand what we're talking about. That's it. So let's just accept this, that it should happen in us, and we'll ask to advance towards it by the connection between us and with the Creator. Item 99. The heading when the light of passes to its place through there. Ket leaves its root in the ket. 99. From the foresaid you can thoroughly understand the matter of the incorporation of the tense in one another and in one another endlessly. For example, when the first two fit emerge, namely, and the light of must emerge from and must therefore pass through the before it comes to the of, and because the light of shone in the getter once, namely as it passed through it, it is therefore impossible for it to ever be absent from there. Consequently, it necessarily implies that even after the light of has reached, the light of still remains complete in getter. The now has two lights, being the light of and the light of watch. Please clip number 12. He starts attaining another form of bestow in him called that also belongs to the get. From attaining the form of bestow within the gets an ability to perform this bestow outside of himself. Then he can give birth to that is outside of him. Where did that come from? Because he acquired a special force of bestow. Ket just feels is already the vegetative, not the still. It can already not only feel but want to bring something out of itself, give birth to something. There's emotion from himself. Where is that? By giving birth to something outside of him. Theme from performing that action, bringing something outward. An ability, an inner ability appears to feel the light, the quality of bestow that awakens in him. Then, how do I say it? There can be another quality of bestow with more forces with that develops, and that also he wants to express. So through the previous actions he expresses it already in such an external form. I don't want to get into too much here. That's you learn in part 5 in test, how they build each other and also gives birth. So every phase that attains inside gives birth to the next forms. Now the question is this. These next forms, are they themselves, do they also give birth to something or not? Nope. Only gives birth only. That's why when it comes to and, then what ends? Here this is what ends. By this the development ends. Because is the one bestowing, and that's how the development ends. So by this ends the revelation of all qualities of bestow from within the records that are in the vessel. We're continuing with item 100, the heading when the light of Beaner passes through, and it leaves its root in them, and so on, in the same manner. 100. It is the same with the light of Beaner, because it must travel through the tour proceeding before it comes to the Beaner, necessarily acquires its place in Keter. And as well, there are now 3 lights in Keter, the light of and the light of Beaner. Likewise, there are 2 lights in, which are the light of and the light of, and 1 light in, the namely her own light. It continues in the same manner until the light of emerges. At that time Keter has all the 10 spur, because the lower 9 lights have necessarily travelled through acquiring their place there. There are also 9 spur in, because all the 8 lower spur below her travelled through her and remained there. Likewise, there are 8 spur in 7, in 6 in, etc., through who has but her own light, because there's no other below it to pass through it. Oh, there's no direct light in the vessel of Malut, but only reflected light. Item 101. Regarding the above-mentioned light of Malut, both the light inside her and the light that is incorporated from her in the first 9 spur is only reflected light. You already know that since the restriction. Onwards a screen was erected on the sphere of, and the light of and cell is not received there. Instead, a coupling occurs there because of the encounter of the light of with that screen, at which time a new light emerges and rises from the screen of called reflected light that shines up to the sphere of it, thus clothes all the 10 spheres from below upward, which is the only way by which it is contained in each sphere of the upper 9 spur. And now we're going to watch clip number 13, please. Except for nobody is actually working. The rest are just branches that come out of him like clothing upon him. And what happens in how does she activate the reflected light when the light reaches to the final phase? So in this last quality of coarseness that the feeling of is added in, the coarseness of malwood with the feeling of that it bestows. So, as we say, what happens? We have the landlord, I got pleasure from him, and also his feeling. And then I feel shame, right, and pleasure, then there's a response, and that's what happens. Here there's a sufficient coarseness to understand that I'm receiving and enough to understand that it's coming from the host because the malwood is. But why is it mal? Because otherwise you can't recognize what is with the quality of in it according to the equivalence of qualities, and then there can be a response from mal. Then she turns necessarily because of shame. Equivalence of form, she can build a reflected light. We're continuing. Item 102a. The heading is regarded as the of the 10 of reflected light. The of is the source of the new light, and every source is regarded as the of that new light. The before her, namely, is regarded as the of the new light, and the one before her, meaning, is regarded as finally. The upper is now regarded as meaning the one that receives from this new light. We will watch clip 14, please. What happened in the first in is that all the vessels are already in existence. The connection between the vessels is there in the 4 phases of direct light. Everything was made after the 4 phases. There's only the response of mallet, how she wants to feel herself in that same state she was made. Nothing changes. You can draw instead of a circle of a triangle and a square, and whatever you feel like, it doesn't matter. All those depictions that we draw, it's to express how Mal wants to feel that situation that she's in what she wants to advance. No more than that. That's why this structure is the structure of all of reality. And if you take part and also divide it into the same square, and the structure is already there. So what do we discover? We discover how this structure starts revealing the relation between the light and the vessel after the restriction. So it's either someone gives birth to someone. There's nothing to give birth to. The vessels are there, but what is born are the qualities of reception. In which way? After the restriction, the vessels awaken towards the pleasure, towards the connection to the giver of the pleasure. That's what he's explaining. So don't think that there's the matter of, even if we say give birth, that it wasn't there. Before there wasn't the world of that whole structure, everything was there in potential, and when the light comes and the vessel starts responding so towards the it happens in practice. So all in all, first of all, it's worth understanding that its structure, the structure, exists. Now the only question is what is revealed is the right response to the pleasure on behalf of the vessel that more and more enters equivalence of form with the giver of the pleasure. That's it. We're continuing at a 102b field of direct light. Expand from above downward. We have learned that in each degree of the 10 sphere we should distinguish 2 courses of tense that extend from. The first is of the 10 field that extend from above downward from to. These are called the 10 spur of the direct light, for they descend in straightness from above downward by a gradual order from the refined vessel to the coarser, and from there to the coarser Still through the coarsest of all. Let's see clip 15 please. Now after the first restriction and the decision of the screen the created being that is, in after the restriction and decides that it will work with the screen, so it starts discovering inside. Now I want to be the star. What light can I discover in order for in this light and the pleasures that would just revealed I will discover my relation towards the star. The created being discovers it. But we say that the upper light came to him from above. The creator awakens it. But the creator awakens it. Okay. On behalf of the created being, where is it revealed? It's revealed in the created being. So, every time we say that the upper triangle is revealed and the lower triangle is revealed, it's actually the created being doing it. And from below, upward when we work, it's in the most clear way. That's how it's happening. What do the Kohlists do when they attain spirituality? They are awakening from within the action of bestow that's called that the general light comes to them, and they feel how the Creator is bestowing to them, and according to that, from we will know you they do a similar action, a lower triangle according to the upper triangle. That's how they're learning these actions, and from learning the actions from below upward, then they can write how it happened from above downward. Nobody attains what was from above downward from to this world. There wasn't a created being yet. It's on potential, but by performing these actions from below upward from their efforts what's revealed the direct light, then the reflected light from this they can write. Now we will move to the last part of the lesson today, which is preparation for the convention duty. Please, dear friends, we have an important update on the World Kabbalah Congress connecting to none else besides him. As we know, in 3 weeks we are going to gather to the convention on Thursday, Friday 22nd and 23rd of May, and another additional day on Shabbat that they're going to be in congresses in Chile, Kazakhstan, Mexico, the US and the Ukraine. And a few points about our approach to how we participate. First of all, it's defined as a local congress. Its purpose is to create physical meetings between friends who live in a certain areas and to strengthen those areas. That's why the recommendation is that every friend comes to the congress that is closest to him physically.